If you're old enough to remember life before the internet, you know what I mean when I say the world felt different. Quieter, slower. Back then, if you wanted answers, you didn't search Google. You asked neighbors, read the newspaper, or trusted the stories people whispered in diners. And sometimes, those stories were darker than you could imagine. In the summer of 1994, my friends and I found something in the attic of an abandoned house. Something we couldn't explain and couldn't look up. No forums, no videos, no experts to help us, just us, and whatever had started following us home. And I'm telling you this now, because some things from those days, they should have stayed buried. You'll never understand how quiet the world used to be until you've lived in it. That's the first thing I tell anyone who asks me what life was like before the internet. Quiet. Not boring. Never boring, but still in a way you can't imagine today. Back then, if you wanted to know something, you didn't pull a glowing rectangle out of your pocket. You asked. You asked your neighbor, your teacher, your best friend's older brother who kind of knew a guy. Information traveled slower, but stories spread like wildfire. It was the summer of 1994 in my small Midwestern town. No smartphones, no Wi-Fi, not even a computer in every house. The air buzzed with the sound of cicadas instead of notification pings. Kids rode their bikes until the streetlights came on. Parents yelled from porches when dinner was ready. And if you wanted to see your friends, you didn't send a text. You showed up at their door. I was 14, just old enough to think I knew everything, just young enough to still believe in magic. My best friends were Tommy, who swore he'd become a stuntman, and Claire, whose brain was basically a library. We spent our days at the local park, shooting hoops on a cracked asphalt court, and making up ridiculous dares that sometimes got us into trouble. One day, Tommy showed up with that look on his face, the one that meant something was about to happen. He dropped his bike in my driveway and said, "You guys ever heard of the Franklin house?" Of course we had. Everybody had. It was the only abandoned house in town, a hulking Victorian at the edge of the woods, its windows boarded, paint peeling, and roof sagging like it was too tired to hold itself up. Rumors said it was haunted, that strange lights glowed inside at night, that people who went in sometimes didn't come back. In today's world, you'd Google it, find some YouTube videos, maybe even a TikTok exploring abandoned places montage. But back then, all we had were whispers and overheard conversations at the diner. No proof, just imagination. Tommy grinned. I heard my cousin say there's something in the attic. Something that's not supposed to be there. Claire rolled her eyes. What, like a ghost? Tommy's grin widened. No, like something left behind. Something valuable. My cousin says people try to take it, but it never works out. I should have said no. We all should have. But that was the thing about life before the internet. You couldn't fact-check danger. You had to decide for yourself if it was worth the risk. And for 3 kids with nothing but time, boredom was the biggest enemy. So we made a plan. Friday afternoon, we'd bike to the edge of town, stash our rides in the woods, and sneak into the Franklin house before dark. Just thinking about it made my heart race. That week crawled by slower than any I can remember. Every day after school, we'd whisper about the plan. Tommy swore his cousin had seen the thing in the attic just 2 weeks ago. Claire brought an old flashlight and a pack of batteries, just in case. I dug out my dad's dusty Polaroid camera, because if we found something, we need proof. Friday finally came. The sky was heavy with the kind of thick summer heat that makes the air shimmer. We biked past the edge of town, past the last gas station, into the shadows of the trees. The Franklin house stood there like it had been waiting for us. It's strange, looking back now, I can remember the sound of my own heartbeat more than anything else. The creak of the front porch, the smell of old wood and damp earth, the way Claire's flashlight beam cut through the dust. We stepped inside, and the world outside faded away. I didn't know it yet, but that day would be the start of something that would change the rest of my life. Because in that attic, in the shadows above us, something was waiting, and it had been waiting for a long time. You never notice how loud your footsteps are until you're in a place you're not supposed to be. Every creak of the floorboards in the Franklin house felt like it echoed through the walls, carrying our presence into every dusty corner. The inside looked worse than I'd imagined. Wallpaper peeled in curling strips, revealing water-stained plaster underneath. A chandelier hung crooked in the hallway, its crystals dulled with decades of grime. Claire's flashlight beam swept across faded family portraits, the faces frozen mid-smile, their eyes somehow too sharp. "Creepy," Tommy whispered, but he didn't sound scared. He sounded thrilled. We made our way through the first floor, finding nothing but broken furniture and old newspapers dated from the late 1970s. Each room felt heavier than the last, like the air itself was thicker. I could smell dust, mildew, and something else, something faintly metallic. We found the stairs to the attic behind a narrow door at the end of the hallway. It was almost hidden, like the house didn't want us to find it. The door stuck, and when Tommy finally forced it open, a puff of dust hit us like a ghost exhaling. The staircase was steep and narrow, the wood soft under our shoes. I went first, holding the Polaroid like a weapon. Claire followed with the flashlight, and Tommy brought up the rear. Halfway up, the air changed. It wasn't just hotter, it felt charged, like the space itself was holding its breath. I could feel the hair on my arms stand up. When I reached the top, I froze. The attic wasn't empty. In the center of the room sat a wooden trunk, its surface carved with strange symbols I didn't recognize. The carvings were deep and deliberate, spirals and jagged lines that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. It wasn't covered in dust like everything else. It looked like someone had polished it recently. "Whoa," Tommy breathed, stepping past me. "Told you there was something." Claire shone the flashlight over it, frowning. "Those markings, I've never seen anything like them." I took a step closer. The symbols seemed almost warm, as if the wood itself had a pulse. I reached out to touch it, but Claire grabbed my wrist. "Don't," she said sharply. "You don't know what's in there." Tommy rolled his eyes. "It's a box. It's meant to be opened." Before I could stop him, he crouched down and unlatched the rusty metal clasp. The lid creaked as he lifted it, and then the flashlight flickered. It wasn't just a flicker like bad batteries. The entire attic seemed to dim for a second, like someone had pulled the light out of the air. Inside the trunk was a book. It was thick, bound in cracked leather, and wrapped in what looked like a strip of faded red cloth. No title on the cover, no author's name, just more of those carved symbols pressed into the leather. Tommy reached for it, but again, Claire stopped him. "Something's wrong," she whispered. I wanted to agree, but I couldn't take my eyes off the book. My fingers itched to open it. There was something magnetic about it, something that felt personal, like it was meant for me. The flashlight flickered again, this time for longer. The shadows in the attic seemed to stretch, bending toward us. I heard something, faint like a whisper, but when I turned, no one was there. That was when the sound came. It started as a low hum, so quiet I thought it might be in my head. But it grew louder, deeper, vibrating through the wooden beams. The floor under my feet trembled just slightly. "Time to go," Claire said, her voice higher than usual. But Tommy, of course, ignored her. He snatched the book out of the trunk and held it up triumphantly, and the hum stopped. The attic went dead silent. Even the cicadas outside seemed to vanish. We stood there, frozen. I swear the air felt heavier, pressing against my chest. Then from the far corner of the attic, something moved. It wasn't a rat. It wasn't any sound I recognized. Just a slow, deliberate shift in the shadows. "Put it back," Claire said. "Now." Tommy hesitated, his eyes darting between us and the book. Then he shook his head. "No way. We found it. It's ours." I didn't argue, but in my gut, I knew something had changed. We didn't just find the book. We woke it up. We ran down the stairs, out of the house, and into the blinding afternoon sun. But even as we biked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone anymore. That night, lying in bed, I thought I heard tapping on my window. Slow, rhythmic, patient. I told myself it was just a tree branch. But when I looked in the morning, there was no tree anywhere near my window. The first rule we broke was keeping the book. The second was opening it. Tommy couldn't help himself. By Saturday morning, he'd already unwrapped the faded red cloth and flipped through its pages. He called me on the house phone. Yes, the one with the curly cord that always tangled, and said, "You gotta come over. It's insane." When I got there, the book was lying open on his desk. The pages were yellowed, the edges rough and uneven like they'd been cut by hand. The writing wasn't in English, or at least, not any English I recognized. The symbols from the cover filled every page, drawn in ink so dark it almost shimmered. "What is this?" I asked, leaning closer. "No clue," Tommy said. "But check this out." He flipped to a page near the back. Unlike the others, this one had a drawing, a detailed, almost too realistic sketch of the Franklin house. The windows, the sagging porch, even the missing shingles on the roof, it was all there. But in the picture, the attic window wasn't boarded up, and something was standing in it. Claire showed up about 20 minutes later, holding a stack of library books, so big she could barely see over them. "I looked everywhere," she said, dumping them on the floor. No matches for the symbols. Closest thing I found was in this book about alchemy, but even that's not the same. We spent the rest of the afternoon trying to decode the pages, cross-referencing every library book we could find. But without the internet, there was no instant answer. Every lead was a dead end. The only thing we knew for sure was that the book was old, older than anything we'd ever handled before. By the time the sun dipped low, I was ready to head home. But before I left, I noticed something odd. The book had been opened to a different page than when I'd first arrived. I didn't remember anyone flipping it. And on that page was my house. The drawing was as precise as the one of the Franklin house. Every detail perfect, down to the way the shingles overlapped on the roof. But the windows were all dark. Every one of them. That night, I had the dream. In it, I was standing in my front yard, staring up at my own bedroom window. There was no glass, just a black, gaping hole. And from that darkness, I heard a voice whisper my name. Not in English, not in any language I knew, but somehow I understood it. When I woke up, the air in my room felt colder than it should have been. I checked the window locked. Still, I couldn't shake the dream. The next few days were strange. Little things at first. My mom swore she heard me talking in my sleep. Claire's flashlight, the one she'd brought to the Franklin house, kept flickering even with new batteries. Tommy said he heard knocking on his walls at night. 3 knocks, always 3. We agreed to meet again the next Friday, but this time, not at anyone's house. We went to the only place in town where we could talk without adults overhearing, the old diner near the railroad tracks. It was there that Claire told us what she'd found. "I think the book's recording us," she said. I laughed, but it died quickly when I saw she wasn't joking. She explained that she'd gone back to the library, looking for anything about binding or naming rituals. Most of the stuff was nonsense. Magic spells in paperback form, ghost stories. But there was one chapter that caught her eye. It said some objects were anchors, able to trap moments, places, even people. Sometimes the book wrote itself. Tommy leaned forward. "So what? It's like a diary that..." Before he could finish, a sharp sound cut through the diner. Bang! It was loud enough to make the waitress drop her tray. It came from outside, near the train tracks. We ran to the window, but there was nothing. No people, no cars, just the quiet stretch of road and the fading light. When we sat back down, the book was there. It was on our booth table. We hadn't brought it. None of us had touched it since the last time at Tommy's house. The red cloth was gone. It was open to a page with 3 names written in the center. Our names. Underneath, in that same strange ink, was the outline of the diner. And sitting in one of the drawn booths, in the far corner of the sketch, was a figure we didn't recognize. The worst part? It wasn't sitting there in the real diner, but in the picture it was smiling. The first thing we did was close the book. Hard. The sound echoed in the empty diner booth, and for a second none of us moved. Claire's hands were shaking. This isn't possible," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tommy tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. Too short, too high-pitched. Maybe it's just some weird trick. Maybe the book changes depending on who's looking at it. But we all knew that was a lie. We'd seen the same thing. Our names. The diner. And that figure. I can still picture it perfectly. It was tall, its shoulders slightly hunched, its head tilted as though it was listening. No eyes, just dark hollows where they should have been. And that smile, too wide, stretching past where a mouth should end. We didn't touch the book for the rest of the night. We left it on the booth table, almost daring it to disappear the way it had appeared. When we finally stepped outside, the summer air felt colder. We agreed not to split up on the way home. So we walked our bikes along the train tracks, talking in short bursts, trying to act normal. But I kept glancing behind me. Every time I did, I expected to see someone following us. When we reached the point where the path split, Tommy and Claire headed one way, and I took the other toward my street. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks. Not loud, not close, but clear. They came from somewhere behind me. I turned, but the street was empty. That night, I didn't sleep much. I left my lamp on, the Polaroid camera beside my bed. At some point, I must have drifted off because I woke to the sound of something soft brushing against my window. My room is on the 2nd floor. I sat up, heart pounding, and grabbed a camera. I didn't see anything, just the moonlight spilling across the glass. But when I checked the photo after it developed, there was a shadow. Not mine. The next morning, I biked straight to Claire's house. She'd been up all night reading through her library books again, and she thought she had a lead. There's a mention of a watcher in one of these old folklore collections, she said, flipping through the pages. It's tied to a belief that certain objects can act as doors. If you open them, you invite something in. The book isn't just recording us. It's letting something cross over. Tommy snorted. Okay, but if this watcher thing is real, why us? Why now? Claire hesitated. Because we opened it, and because we didn't put it back. We decided to return to the Franklin house that night. Our plan was simple. Take the book, put it back in the trunk, lock it, and leave. Maybe it would be enough to close whatever we'd opened. It wasn't. When we got there, the house felt wrong. The air inside was thicker than before, heavy with the smell of damp wood and something sour. Our footsteps seemed quieter, swallowed up by the darkness. We climbed to the attic. The trunk was still there, lid open as if waiting for us. But the inside was empty. Tommy swore under his breath. It was right here. We searched the attic, the 2nd floor, even the basement. Nothing. The book was gone. When we came back upstairs, Claire froze. There, in the dust on the attic floor, were 3 sets of footprints. Ours, and a 4th set that started in the middle of the room. No entry point. No beginning. Just there. They led to the attic window. And stopped. We didn't say a word after that. We left the house, got on our bikes, and pedaled faster than I think I ever have in my life. That night, the dream came back. Only this time, I wasn't standing in my yard. I was inside my house. And the watcher was closer, still smiling. When I woke, my bedroom door was open. I'd locked it before I went to sleep. The summer heat broke the next day. Dark clouds rolled in early, turning the sky the color of bruised steel. By nightfall, the storm hit. Heavy rain, wind that shook the trees, and thunder that rattled the windows. That should have made me feel safer. Storms always did. But not this one. This time, the storm felt like it was hiding something. Around 9 p.m., the power went out. No lights, no TV, no hum of the fridge. Just the sound of rain hammering the roof. I lit a candle in my room, the shadows dancing across the walls. The phone rang. I picked it up static, just a low hiss, and under it a faint voice. It wasn't speaking English, but my stomach dropped anyway because I knew what it was saying. My name, over and over. I slammed the phone down, grabbed my Polaroid camera, and stuffed a flashlight in my pocket. Then I biked through the storm to Tommy's house. He was already at the door when I got there, soaked to the bone. Claire just called me, he said. The book's back. In her room. We didn't waste time. We pedaled hard, tires splashing through puddles, wind nearly knocking us over. Claire met us at her porch, clutching the book to her chest like it might bite her. It was on my bed when I came home, she said. I locked my door this morning. We went inside. The candlelight made the room feel too small, the shadows too deep. The book lay open on her desk now, though none of us remembered putting it there. The page showed a perfect drawing of Claire's room. And in the corner of the drawing, behind where we stood in real life, was the watcher. Close it, I said. Now. Claire did, but the room didn't feel any lighter. In fact, it felt heavier. I remembered what she told us about anchors and doors. If the book was the door, maybe we could shut it for good. But the trunk was gone. The Franklin house felt like a death trap, and we couldn't exactly ask for help. What were we supposed to say? That's when Claire pulled out a box of matches. You can't burn it, Tommy said. It's too old, too weird. What if it makes things worse? What if it's the only way? Claire shot back. The wind outside screamed, rattling the windows. The candle flickered, and then 3 knocks. They came from inside the house. We didn't move. The knocks came again, this time from the closet. Tommy grabbed the flashlight and swung it toward the sound. The beam landed on the closet door. Its edge was shifting, bowing inward like something was pressing from the other side. We didn't wait. Claire struck a match, the tiny flame trembling in her hand. She dropped it onto the book. For a second, nothing happened. Then the pages caught with a sudden, violent blaze. The symbols seemed to writhe in the firelight, twisting into shapes that made my stomach turn. The heat rose fast, the air smelling like burnt copper. From the closet came a sound, long, low, and furious. Not human, not anything I'd ever heard before. The flames consumed the book in less than a minute, leaving only blackened scraps. And just like that, the pressure in the room broke. The wind outside eased. The knock stopped. The closet was still. We stayed there until the fire died completely, the candle burning low. When we finally dared to open the closet, it was empty. The storm passed before dawn. The power came back. The fridge hummed. The street lights flickered on. Life went back to normal. Almost. We never spoke of the book again. The Franklin house was torn down a few years later, replaced by a strip mall. No one found the trunk. No one mentioned the watcher. But sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet and the world feels too still, I swear I hear it. 3 knocks. And I remember that before the internet, before cameras everywhere, before everything was recorded, if something wanted you badly enough, there was nothing stopping it from finding you.